I'm Jamie, JM Samland. I also write under Dirk Morningwood for the stuff I'm on here. So I write mostly fantasy, and the next book I have coming out is I go all over the place with genres. My next one is a gothic psychological horror set in 1925 New England. So I'm writing that one for my sister's birthday, so it's a little different than most of my things.
My name is Bevin Goldsmith. I write a military fiction series called Adrenaline Rush. I have my third book coming out pretty soon called Operation Homefront, and the story surrounds a female veteran. So the point of this series was to sort of educate and entertain people and kind of show them what veterans go through on a daily basis. You know, we have to get out, we have to transition. Some of us are going through PTSD and other things, but we also have to get back to life. Some of us are moms and have children. So it's very difficult trying to reconcile certain emotions and feelings that you should be having as a mother and sort of putting that soldier version of yourself away. So that's what it's about. And there's blowing things up and shooting, and romance in there too.
My name is Natalie Bycraft. I have a light fantasy fiction novel as well as as well as a collection of poetry and short stories. And my next writing project will be the follow-up, the book 2 to Daughter Nature. So that will be, I'm just starting it now, so it'll be a little bit of
I'm Barabara Stark-Nemon, and I write historical fiction and contemporary women's fiction. Hard Cider and Even in Darkness bear a remarkable resemblance to certain members of my family. So they're kind of based in family stories. And then Isabella's Way takes place in the 17th century about an embroiderous 14-year-old who has to find her way out of Portugal to escape the Inquisition. And she has to embroider her way to Germany. So this is an encore career for me. I was a teacher and speech pathologist for 30 years, and I never thought I could enjoy something as much and get as much out of it as this second career. So for those of you who think you might one day write, keep thinking.
So I am Katharine, sweet, also known as KJ, because I have books I don't want my grandma to know about. So I write contemporary romance, rated R Hallmark is what I like to call it. And then I write what I like to call diet dark romance. So it's a horror comedy with a splash of dark romance. You have serial killers that fall in love with people. I don't want grandmas to know about the stabby things. Also as a gag, I have a full colored cookbook that are my rated R recipes. They are all recipes with dirty names. They go in conjunction with my first book, Duet. And what I'm working on right now is a follow-up to Failure to Thrive, because it was part of a 7-book interconnected series set in a small Michigan town in the early 2000s. And the second one is going to be called Faking It For Now, which is going to be a twist on fake dating. So I'm very excited for that.
Sounds great. All right, so my first question is for Jamie. What are your favorite themes to work in your books, and what things have been the most challenging to write?
So pretty much all my books at some point deal with characters becoming of age. They're coming into their own self, learning about who they are as a person and growing. That is, even if I don't intend for that to happen, even my newest erotic thriller, it still happens in that. So I would say that a lot of my characters, I leave a little bit of myself in all of them. So maybe I am also then trying to figure out who I am while I'm taking this writing journey and doing a bunch of different genres. So the theme of learning who you are as a person is in all of my books. The ones that I'm having difficulty with is there is a book I call it Fey Blood is my working title for it, but it's about a couple whose dog is conscripted into the Fey army, and they have to go into they're from Battle Creek, Michigan. They have to go into the Fey world to get their dog back, and all these trying to work on these characters who are very much in love, but also are having a lot of marital problems, and they're fighting constantly. That has been extremely difficult for me to get into the proper headspace for that. So these themes of more of the characters interfighting in a way that I have done is just very toxic for myself. So that's the hard themes are the ones that are emotionally draining for me to get into. Or like my one trigger in movies or books or anything is animal abuse. I can't take any kind of animal abuse. You can do whatever you want, people. Okay, just leave the dog and cat alone. So also bad things are not gonna, like their dog's gonna survive the journey, but it's gonna be bad times for the dog also. So getting into these difficult headspaces overall is difficult to do. So that book has been shown several times.
Bevin, how do you incorporate your lived experiences as a veteran into your writing? Because I imagine you work in your the traumatic experiences that you've experienced into your books. How does that work?
So for me, and a lot of people have asked me this question, the main character in my books, Kate Olsen, is not, her experiences are not solely based on mine. She's sort of a conglomerate of all the women that I served with when I was in the military. So, and there's so many female stories out there, and most of our stories as female veterans are overshadowed or very undertold. We just don't talk about them. So she's just a conglomerate of all of those stories. So when something I try to do when I'm writing a scene or I'm writing a book is I try to figure out what issue do I want to focus on? Do I want to focus on PTSD in this book? Do I want to focus on the transition process? Do I want to focus on survivor's guilt? There's a whole slew of issues that we go through, and I'm not a man, obviously, I am a woman, so I go through it completely different than any of my brothers from the military do. So I don't know if that answered your question, that's kind of how I do that.
Have any parents tell you that they see themselves in your books?
Since really pushing my series, I went on my first book tour last year. I had a plethora of veterans, the majority male veterans, truly appreciative of me coming out and talking about my experience, because it's just not something that we do. I mean, especially when we're in the military, men as well. We just don't do that. That's not, there's no place for that. So, them hearing me come out, and I have had a few females, but not as many as men. They are really appreciative, and they do see themselves in my story, and they always tell me, we appreciate what you're doing because we are not the only ones that went through it, we were there too. So you should be sitting at this table too, not just us.
Very nice to hear. And then for Natalie, what encouraged you to write like urban/contemporary fantasy? And can you explain the world building that you did for your environmental?
So she's referring to Daughter Nature. This is my debut novel. And as far as world building goes, it was super easy because it's just set in our world. So there wasn't much to that, but there is an underlying magic system that the regular humans, like the mortals, or like the muggles, they don't really know about. Essentially, my main character finds out that she has the powers to help save the environment, and she's part of a group of people who have these same powers across the world. And she also ends up finding out that she is being hunted down for it. So,
Could you remind me of the first part of your question? What encouraged you to write that type of magic system?
I see. Well, saving the environment is a really a cause that's really near and dear to my heart, and I wanted to be able to write some fictional heroes that we could root for, but that we can also relate to, because I don't know if you notice, but in popular TV shows and sometimes in books as well, the environmentalist person is always portrayed as the kind of off the wall, crazy, too much, into it, and then so I wanted there to be environmental heroes that you can actually relate to, And then maybe that will hopefully someday influence some real world change.
How do you utilize history in your writing? And I also heard you like to travel, so I'm wondering if that incorporates into your research process.
So, for Even in Darkness, my first novel, that was based on a family story, and I was very fortunate to get a trove of letters written from Europe, from all over the world that told the story. I also traveled to meet Great Aunt, who is the main character, who remained in Germany, and then I did a ton of research, because that, if you write historical fiction, the more research you do, the more authentic the world becomes, and I will say with some pride that that's one of the things that critics and readers have really said, and I feel like I'm in that world. For hard cider, which is not historical fiction, it's contemporary, but it's about a woman who starts a hard apple cider business. And I literally went all over the place, to cideries, to apple growers, and just research. So again, it really helped a lot. And I do love to travel, and I just feel like, I mean, I've been very fortunate to be able to go to the places that my books are set, and it just, to breathe, to see, to smell, to eat, to sleep, to just, bicycle and walk through the country is I mean, it's essential to my writing process. So I feel pretty strongly about research and about travel.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, I was very lucky to be able. My family all came from Europe, so still have family there. And my husband and I like to bicycle, and it's a great way to travel. So.
How do you create tension and conflict between two people in your romance books who are meant to be together?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to use a failure as an example. So one of the things I like to do is I like to show the characters kind of leaning towards each other, and then most of my stories are a man fighting himself. So the first time, for example, Aster helps Russ with something, it sort of blows him away, and he hugs her without thinking about it. And it's one of the first times he's really like done anything like that. And she hugs him back, and he's just sort of hit in the solar plexus by the fact that she's done that. And then he calls her Sunshine as a nickname, and then realizes what he's done, and his immediate response is absolutely not. That lady is not for me. And then on the flip side, it's taking a character like Aster, for example, is it's doing almost an opposite of the personality without making them opposite people. So Aster is very internal. One of the first things that she says to us when he offers her the room to stay in is, well, what do I have to do to be there? She doesn't know how to just be and exist in her own skin without there being some sort of negotiation. So it's taking two characters that are very different, but have sort of an essential need that they need to figure out, and then compare it into that relationship without making it dependent. Because I always want to make the romance part of it, but not the thing that fixes the issue. The romance is almost like the reward for looking at yourself.
That's nice.
You try so hard.
And then, this is a question for all the audience. I would like to hear about what's the weirdest question someone has asked you about being an author? The weirdest or the most funny I've ever heard. Go ahead.
So, I can answer that one. Someone once asked me when I did, this takes place in Germany throughout World War II, and someone asked me, who's the Jesus figure in this book? And I'm Jewish. And this book is about, this is a story of my great aunt who was Jewish and went into a concentration camp, and then spent the last 4 years of her life living with a Catholic priest at her age, and they're absolutely transcendent and wonderful, connected. They both suffered horrible losses. She was like his housefrau, and I knew and loved these people, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how do I answer that question, you know, because it's, so that was definitely weird. But I mean, I really had to think about it. And then we had this great book club discussion about it. The priest, right, would be the obvious one, but the priest would not have appreciated that.
I got asked if my spicy life was as creative as in my books. And my brother was standing next to me when the question got asked, and he goes, I'm gonna leave if you want to ask. That was my strangest question.
I can't really recall a strange question, but I did have a coworker of mine at my day job. When I showed him my book, he said, "Oh, you must have a lot of time on your hands." I was like, I mean, not really. So I actually did a lot of right, you know.
I don't think you're going to ask a weird question in regards to my writing, but I have had a few people come on and ask me if I was a man, which didn't really have anything to do with my writing, but I am married and I have children. Last time I checked, no, I don't know.
I did get a random text from a friend that was reading a collection of short stories with Emma and Veronica. One of them takes place in the lighthouse, and in the beginning of it, I did say that these are very, very loosely based on real life events. And so a friend just texted me out of nowhere. He said, "What the hell did you guys do in the lighthouse?" Very, very loosely.
Drove by the lighthouse. That was real.
And we saw the lighthouse. And, no.
Okay, awesome. Well, at this point, I would love to hear if the audience has any questions. Yes, go ahead.
Any writer or who's your inspirations? Like, which genre do you read the most of, like, other authors?
I read, my top author right now is Sylvia Moreno, romance and gothic. So horror is like one of, hilariously, because I write romance. Horror is one of my favorite things to read, and any of her books that I have picked up, I have just been devoured. They're so good. I love the authenticity to the world that she brings.
I read a lot of literary fiction and historical fiction, because that's what I write. Barbara Kingsolver is definitely one of my favorite. Tom Lake, help me out.
Anne Patchett.
Thank you, Anne Patchett. And historical, I mean, but I will say that the books I read as a kid were almost the most important books. I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird remains one of my, it remains one of the most important books that I read. So a lot of the books sort of dig there.
Same with my writing. I'm very much a genre hopper in my reading. So I love a lot of different types of fiction, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of nonfiction as well. But my go-to answer as far as like an inspirational author is always Bridget Lowry. Not maybe a very well-known one, but yeah, excellent, nice. I don't know how many people do.
Yeah.
She has this like whimsical way of writing, and it always just seems so fun. And I first discovered her books when I was in middle school, and she was kind of like the author who got me into reading essentially. And so I still reread her books today as like comfort books, like comfort rereads. So I am the same. I am a genre hopper. I would have to say J.R.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis are my top favorites. I grew up listening to those as bedtime stories as a child.
So just the creativity, intricacy of how they write and build their stories really helped me or created how I build the foundation for my stories and the intricacies and how we can weave everything together to make a really good story.
Say CSOs was a big one for me. It was all fantasy growing up, and today I read, so I went through the Brandon Sanderson, the Stephen King's, and all that, but today it's mostly other authors. I'm reading indie author, or I'm reading, doing alpha reads or sensitivity reads for other authors. So most of my author friends write dark romance, so I'm reading a lot of smut, even though it's not my like go-to favorite genre to read. Even though it's weird because it's what I write half the time. But it was James Clemens. He did the Witchfire Man Advantage series, and was reading that in high school, and I wrote him like a letter and sent it in the mail to his publisher, and then he emailed me back, and emailing him back and forth around the turn of the century. And it just made me realize that authors are like people, and it really humanized an author to me, so that made it more accessible to me. I think I want to try doing this. Years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to make a couple of comments as far as first of all, my husband absolutely loves history, and as far as military, etc., I can't wait to read some of your work here. Okay, hers in particular. Okay, and we've been to Germany and the concentration camps, and when you talk about going and experiencing and being there, oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps now. You just get chills when you think about what they went through in the concentration camps and etc. That feeling, if any of you have never been to Europe, I'm serious, travel overseas, experience this stuff. And we can't wait to read yours. Natalie I've known forever, and she is a wonderful artist who draws and paints, etc. And she was in band, so she has many artistic talents that happened prior to her writing. So to see her, blossom into this and just go, I'm ecstatic. So anyway, those are
I've designed my covers too, so I can utilize my other art forms at the same time.
Which instrument? What instrument?
Oh, I play marimba.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm a percussionist. So.
Any more questions?
I was asked, what social media platforms do you use to advertise your novels, and do you find some easier than others in terms of getting it to your audience? Great question.
I am terrible with marketing. So I was big into TikTok for a while, and then that kind of fell off. And Instagram, like Facebook, Meta stole one of my books for its AI training, so I'm very saucy about that. So I'm like, no Facebook, but I know that they're like this necessary evil. Like I have a big old mailing list, but I sent it out to 2,500 people, and you don't really get results. I don't know. I'd love to hear
TikTok has been my most successful one. It's where I've gotten the most grab to get people's attention. I'm very bad at marketing. To say if I were more consistent, I would probably be better at it. Mailing list is always a good way to start because it's any social media platform can go away at any time. So it's a mailing list are important to build. And I've had some luck with Instagram, but TikTok's probably the one that I kind of get a bang out of.
Do you have a TikTok shop set up?
I do not, because every time I go to set it up, it takes my sounds away from some of my videos, and I'm really I'm a triple Virgo, so once I have it set the way I want it, it can't get moved.
You will get along very well with my wife that's sitting right next
I've got it now, don't breathe on it.
Well, as the ancient person here on the panel, I'm here to say that none of this came to me naturally. So everything that I do, which is Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a mailing list, and I do have a Substack, which I just, transferred over to a year ago, and I really like that. But my 16-year-old granddaughter just came to live with us for 2 years, and she has promised me that I'm gonna be on TikTok. So, but it's so interesting. I have yet to hear the panelist who said, oh, I love the marketing part of this job. We hate it. We hate doing it. And so we figure out the least objectionable way of, that still helps us market. So it's a thing. It's a problem, actually. So if any of you are going into social media, graphic design, marketing, authors should be high on your list of people to pitch.
As for me, I've found that I can get a lot of likes on TikTok. It's not very much by anybody else's standards, maybe or more interactions on Facebook or whatever, but those aren't really where I have fun posting. So I just find myself posting more so to Instagram than anything because that's the app that I enjoy the most. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I don't really like it as much as I used to. But if you pick the platform that you like the best, it'll make it easier to keep posting. And then I just kind of ignore the Facebook and TikTok, and every once in a while I pop in. But and then obviously I know Instagram is still meta, and obviously there's, like you're saying, the necessary evil of it. Yes, right. So that part's unfortunate, but it is still a way to connect with people and to build an audience. And like it or not, I'm gonna stick with it for a little while. So yeah.
I use Facebook and Instagram as necessary evil. I cannot stand social media at all. But as my best friend reminds me, it's the only way people will know about my writing. So, and it is a lot of work because you're not simply writing stories, and now you have to figure out how to get your stories edited, you make new book covers, and then you have to do all the PR work, which means you're consistently talking to people. And unfortunately, Facebook and Instagram, I'm not on TikTok yet. I've not dipped my toes in that pool. It's just one of the quickest ways to get the most amount of people to see your work with assets. So those are the two that I use.
You have a good best friend.
She's actually my real estate partner for a very long time. So we've known each other for 1,000 years. She can sell anything. She'll consistently tell me when you post something today. You need to post something today.
Yeah, so I've got a question for all you guys. As far as the time of day when you write and the space in which you write in, as far as the physical space, is there, just be interested to hear what that is for you guys. And if it's kind of random or if you kind of have a certain space and time to do whatever.
So my day job is I'm a supervisor of software developers, so I'm on Teams all day, I'm on my computer all day, and then I just push the button on my KVM switch, and then now it's my desktop that has all my writing on it, and so I'm in the same space. I have found, all my characters have the same problem as me of attention deficit disorder, and so I'm all over. So I do have a little Alpha Smart that has 3 lines of text on it, and it uses 3 AA batteries. That is great to just take elsewhere in the house and get away from the same space where I'm doing all my 8-10 hours of day job work. Take that to a coffee shop sometimes, put in my earbuds, just sprawl out of bed and type. That does help, but every once in a while you do need to do the research on the computer, so you do need to get back or take the sun off the outside.
So I am a mom, so I have 3 kids, and my day job is working in law enforcement. So I'm either writing very early in the morning when nobody's awake, or very late at night when nobody is awake. Basically, if the earth is still, I can write. And the space, it just depends on what I am writing, honestly. If I am writing a scene where I need to do more research, then I'm probably writing on my desktop.
I'm most likely on my laptop in bed. But that's generally how that works. Location-wise, for me, it's very much the same. I'm like either on my couch with a laptop, or I'm sitting at my desk when I feel like I need to kind of get zoned in a little bit more. As far as like a writing, I don't have so much of a writing routine where I'm like doing the same time of day every day. But I have a pretty solid writing practice where either I will work after my day job in the evening after I've had dinner, or on the days that I'm not working the day job, then I can kind of like get up and have my leisurely morning and then get around to writing and kind of spend a little bit more time on it, that sort of thing. And then with some of the poems in this book, you might consider to be like notes app poetry. You know, I will like be at work and I'll be like, hang on, I just had a great thought, and I'm sitting there typing. So sometimes I write a little bit of poetry on the clock, at least, you know, make a note of what I want to, you know, elaborate on later.
So my favorite place to write is at our home in Lake Michigan, preferably with my writing partners who happen to be here. So, and that's a writing group, is something that I'm very important in my life. I don't do well like with snippets. Like I didn't really start writing until I retired, because I also had 3 kids and a husband who had a big job, took a lot of time. So I needed the mental space to get into it. And so if I have 2 or 3 hours, I can do a writing thing, but I admire people who have 45 minutes between here and there and can sit down and write 100 words. That's just not me. I'm not wired that way. One thing at a time.
I'm about to prove I'm a triple worker. So unless I am on a deadline trying to get something done, like revisions for like an editor or something, I write at night from 6 o'clock until my husband yells at me to get out of the office. I haven't eaten 4 hours and he knows I need to move. I have 2 screens for my computer. The screen in front of me has my document that I'm writing on, and then a Discord app. And I'm in an empty chat all by myself with a timer that tells me how many words I've done in 30 minutes. On screen 2, I have one half of it is the spreadsheet that I have laid my story out on with all of my notes and my research that I've done. The other one is a blank Google screen, so if I need to research something, my phone has a specific playlist. I have a specific pair of earbuds in my ears. And if anyone interrupts me, I start crying. My husband has learned how to approach with caution. He'll text message me on the phone and be like, you haven't eaten. Come out, please. I am not quite as crazy if I'm writing. I've done like writing retreats and work with others. Obviously, I'm not so rigid. But if I'm at home and where I do the best work is when I